like to see more film productions that start locally and stay local in some ways, and of course are distributed maybe beyond just the area, but there's a lot of film talent here.
It's just really hard to turn a camera on anywhere in Southern Oregon and not get a great shot.
Crowdfunding and social media are just another piece of the puzzle that have already helped to democratize filmmaking and create more opportunities for more creative people to do more powerful and interesting things.
Hello, I'm Robin Fichter, and welcome to the Jeffersonian. In this episode, we will be looking at the film industry in the state of Jefferson. We'll be exploring 100 years of filming in our area, how this industry is thriving today, and how technology is making independent movie making just a bit easier and accessible.
The first film shot in the Rogue Valley was shot in 1915. It was a film called Grace Visits the Rogue Valley. And it was about this Broadway star, Grace, who came to this, rural area in Oregon and visited the Rogue Valley, and that was the story of her visit. If you look at it today, which I just did, it's really fascinating. First of all, by today's standards, it's totally boring. I mean, it's hard to get through the whole film. But in another sense, we see this woman and she comes into, I don't know where she arrives, maybe in Medford, and she goes to Crater Lake, and then she comes to Ashland, and she does this elaborate sort of avant-garde dance in Ashland. And I thought it was fascinating because here we are now, basically 100 years later, and Ashland is still sort of the same place. It's where we do a lot of, there's the Shakespeare Festival, a lot of avant-garde, artsy kind of stuff going on, and that's how it was back in 1915 during this first film. So it's interesting to follow the history of film in the Valley.
Oregon got it was called a kinetoscope at the time in about 1894 or so. And that was used to show vaudeville shows, boxing matches, all sorts of stuff in the old penny arcades. And then in the early 1900s, Portland actually opened a movie theater, and they began to show actual films.
You think of everything from these huge Hollywood productions like Kindergarten Cop, which is a star vehicle for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
They're okay. Don't worry. Everything is under control. No. Monsters.
You think of 70s cult films, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or Animal House.
That had no end. I give.
Sorry.
During the past centuries, when films have come to the Valley, they've usually come for the location. So they would shoot parts of the films on location to get that beautiful feel, the western sets, the mountains, the high deserts, the rivers.
The most famous film ever shot in Oregon would be Buster Keaton's The General, which was shot in 1926, I believe, in Cottage Grove, Oregon. And it was a film that cost almost $750,000 to make in the 1920s, which was a lot of money at the time.
One of the early films that really showed the economic impact of film for an area. They used Oregon National Guard folks, actually burned down a bridge in the climactic scene, which involved sort of stopping a train, a runaway train.
In the 1970s, a group of films were shot in the town of Jacksonville. Jacksonville still has an 1880s, 1890s gold rush type of feel and look to it. So it's a natural setting for films to shoot there. They don't have to build their sets. They can shoot in the towns.
There was the Northfield, Minnesota raid, 1972. That was done in Jacksonville, and it actually changed Jacksonville. The crew came in order to use the town, you know, they retrofitted it to make it work. They built up some of the buildings and all, and some of that is still there.
One of the famous films that's been shot in Oregon was Rooster Cogburn, in part, it brought John Wayne to Southern Oregon, and he kind of fell in love with this little ranch area out in Selma. And I don't know if you've ever seen the Southern Oregon University Siskiyou Field Station out there, but that used to be John Wayne's ranch.
To whom do you think you are talking, Marshal?
You is to whom I think I'm talking, sister.
The River Wild was interesting because it was partly shot in Southern Oregon, but then largely completed in Montana. And one of the issues that came up was the environmental impact of the film and the shooting on the area. So that eventually caused the filmmakers to relocate parts of it.
My name is Annie Lundgren, and I own a film production company called Joma Films here in Ashland. I own it with my husband, writer-director Gary Lundgren. In the last 10 years, we've made 2 larger features with bigger actors in them. And the first one was Calvin Marshall.
I need some advice about a girl. It's Tori Jensen. Well, first you need a scouting report. Just follow her around. So you want me to stalk her? No, don't stalk her. Just spy on her.
And then most recently, we made Redwood Highway, and that's being released in May, at the end of this month.
Sound speed? No. Camera speed?
Scene 10, take 1, Mark.
I'm the executive director of Southern Oregon Film and Television. I'm also a producer working in the industry. What I didn't expect when I moved to Southern Oregon 11 years ago was that there was an active industry here. I guess I just assumed that in a small place, hours away from any big city, that there really wouldn't be much going on, maybe some just small local production. And what I found out was, first of all, that any community like Southern Oregon is going to take care of its own needs. But I think what sets Southern Oregon apart is that we are a little bit more isolated than a lot of other smaller communities in America. So we kind of have to even have a little bit more of a self-contained industry.
If you're a visiting filmmaker, let's say, that means that you don't have to travel with your whole crew and your whole cast to Oregon to make a film, which really cuts down the budget, because you can hire people here. You can hire camera people here. You can hire gaffers here. You can hire sound people here. You can hire actors here. All of that is a tremendous savings in the budget.
We're so lucky and fortunate here. We have hugely talented actors. So we do try to draw as much of our talent locally as possible.
There's always been a tremendous number of Hollywood stars who've found the area really a great place to live.
A ton, and I do mean a ton of people here that really want to work and do something.
What I experienced was that there wasn't a lot of cohesion or connection amongst the members of the industry. And at the same time, there wasn't the collaboration between Medford and Ashland and Josephine County and maybe somebody on the coast. So I thought, you know, let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. So Southern Oregon Film and Television is a nonprofit, professional networking and trade association. I created it in 2008 because I saw that maybe there was a need to bring the members of the industry together. And it's turned out to be pretty successful. We're still growing. We have over 175 members, which aren't just professionals in the industry. That's something that I want to make sure that everybody understands, that anybody can be a member of SOFAT.
Most of the professionals living in this area are part of SOFAT, so it's been a huge networking opportunity for all of us.
And one of the things that I think SOFAT has been really crucial in is letting outside producers who are interested in coming to Southern Oregon feel confident that they can find the crew that they need, they can find the cast that they need, the equipment that they need, they can get access to the locations, they can work with the permitting agencies.
I don't know if you've ever tried to film in Los Angeles or even some other places that aren't really large. Filming, getting permits, going through the red tape can be really difficult, and the people here are very, very friendly to visiting and local filmmakers.
The chamber organizations locally and the cities of Ashland and Medford are also starting to promote the region, and the state film office has been doing a really great job in the last few years of sending as many projects here as they can.
Within the state of Oregon, I'm making this just a little bit larger now, there are 22 state parks where a film can be made free of charge just for the credit. That's a lot. We have 2 counties where you don't have to pay any kind of film fee to film.
If you look at the incentive programs that Oregon has been engaging upon quite smartly, it's encouraging film production to come into the state and giving them incentives based not on just coming and doing a production and leaving, but it's also giving post-production incentives as well through its IOPIF program and game company incentives. So it's saying, bring your media and entertainment industry business to us, but extend that relationship with us to your benefit and to ours, because the returns can be and are tenfold or more. So a $6 or $10 million investment by the state can be returning $20, $40, or $100 million or more in revenue. And so that's quite exciting. And it's something that a smart state will continue to pursue by aligning itself with an economy as robust as this industry can offer if properly managed.
There's a lot of benefit to having a film industry here. Not only do we get crew hired, but there's also residual benefits, ripple type of effects. People stay in hotels, people eat meals, people maybe invest in property here when they see how beautiful it is.
In the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of those professionals join the organization and start getting the idea that we want to promote the region as a place to make films. And so just recently, we were named #2 place to live and work as a filmmaker.
You have almost every possible scenery that can support every genre in film.
I think one of the reasons why the film industry is in Los Angeles, in addition to the reliable weather, is its proximity to the coast, to mountains, to the desert, to forested areas, to urban areas. And I honestly feel that Southern Oregon is about as close to that as you get. We have the redwoods.
You can do urban scenes here.
We have the coast.
You can do rural scenes here.
We have beautiful, lush green valleys.
You can do mountain scenes here.
We have woods, we have rivers, we have lakes.
You can do forest scenes. You can do coastal scenes, all within a very small distance.
You can go a little bit further east, you can get dry desert-like conditions.
I think that's probably the most important thing in terms of the attraction to Oregon as a place for people to film.
And they just photograph beautifully. It's just really hard to turn a camera on anywhere in Southern Oregon and not get a great shot.
In our company, one of our visions is to continue promoting the area so that the industry grows here, and also continue looking for other opportunities for growth, whether it's in post-production or digital.
Now you have people making films here that are completely animated, right? So like Paranorman, which is Leica up in Portland. They have a reach that I think is all over the state now. And this is a place where people go to make cutting-edge animated films. It has nothing to do with the beautiful mountains and the forestry and everything we talked about, right? It's something else. And so that speaks to some of the changes.
This is crazy.
Do I look crazy to you?
You might want to give that a few minutes.
I think my favorite thing now is that there's a real strong, committed, independent voice in cinema here.
We can't just have films coming from outside the area we actually have to have more projects being initiated here.
I'd like to see more film productions that start locally and stay local in some ways, and of course are distributed maybe beyond just the area, but there's a lot of film talent here.
People in this area should pattern themselves after. They're people that were acquainted with the area, raised in the area, had something to do with the area, and they put together a cast and crew and made films.
During the whole decade of the early 2000s, a bunch of independent films were shot here. And now we've got the Ashland Independent Film Festival, which has become a major, major film festival. It's considered one of the best of the small film festivals in the country.
And I think there is something like 8 or 9 other film festivals around the state.
We just wrapped the 13th annual Ashland Independent Film Festival this past April, so 2014 was our 13th festival. We started in 2001, and I think that year there were 200 submissions. This year we had close to 1,000, so we've grown quite a lot over those years. We had 97 films this year, and those are a mix of shorts, documentaries, and narrative features. We have student filmmakers and local filmmakers, so we try and really bring the best from around the world and in the Rogue Valley to our audience here.
I'm the coordinator for the Siskiyou Film Fest, located in Grants Pass, Oregon, with performances at the Grants Pass High School Performing Arts Center. The festival started in 2002, focuses on ecology, sustainability, and community. We look for films that highlight individuals creating positive changes in the world. Actually, this year we traveled to Mount Shasta, Ashland, Medford, and Cave Junction, showing additional films.
The economic benefits of a film festival are really enormous. For the 5 days that we're here, we're bringing lots and lots of people to Ashland who are having lunch and dinner, buying meals, they're shopping in between films, they're staying in hotels. And I think that our shopkeepers and our business owners and sponsors have really see a great influx of business and dollars into the Rogue Valley.
I think the more activity we get, the more interesting things there are going to be that start popping up from the ground up.
It's really more of a place for filmmakers to show their films and share them with an audience and really get, that's the reason they've made their film initially. Of course, they want to sell it and make some income from this project they've been working on for years, but what they really talk about that they find in Ashland is just the great ability to have full houses, packed theaters.
It creates a buzz, it creates a way of films being made, people hear about it and people want to make films here and they see parts of films being shot here and continue to make those films.
I would hope that the film festival is part of that in a way of where we're bringing filmmakers here for those 5 days and they're seeing this incredible community that we have. They're meeting the local filmmakers who live and work here and getting a sense of the quality of the crews that are available, that, this is a place that they would like to come back to, not only because they love it, but that it's really a great place to do their work.
In the last 5 years since the recession, just like many industries in the nation, the film industry really went through a lot of changes, both from the recession and also because of the way that technology has been changing and the way that consumers purchase media has changed a lot too. You want to keep your budgets under $500,000 if you don't have distribution up front to make sure that you can get it out into the market through other sources.
Crowdsourcing, those are platforms where artists like filmmakers or songwriters can turn to the internet and they go to platforms such as Kickstarter.com or Indiegogo.com. Those are the two largest. And basically what they do is you put together a package like you would if you were going into Hollywood to present a film, an idea for a film. You put this package together and you throw it out there on the internet. They hopefully will open up their wallets and their checkbooks or credit cards in this case, and they will help you with like $10 or $20 or $50 or $100 or more. Kickstarter.com, their track record is about 44%, so just underneath about 1 in every 2 get funded. When you start up with a crowdsourcing campaign, the first thing you really need to do is you need to have your social media in place.
You're building your audience, you're connecting with the people that are likely to be interested in your film well ahead of time through various digital platforms, social media, other kinds of things.
The social media is going to be how you draw them towards your site, and then once they get to your site on the platform, you offer them incentives or rewards. And you know, the most popular reward is usually around the $20 range, which will get them usually a copy of the DVD or a digital download.
We'll be running our Kickstarter campaign for 30 days starting on June 1st. So we'll be raising $40,000 from that campaign.
Crowdfunding and social media are just another piece of the puzzle that have already helped to democratize filmmaking and create more opportunities for more creative people to do more powerful and interesting things.
It was imperative that we had a Kickstarter campaign. It kept us from having to go to private funding, and when private funding starts to happen, you start losing creative control.
One other thing that we've learned a lot, and I want to encourage all filmmakers coming out, is that it's a completely new time in the world of filmmaking. There's vast opportunities now that didn't exist before. You know, 10 years ago, you would make your film, and there wasn't the ability to connect directly with your audience and to sell the film directly to your audience because of the internet didn't exist in the way it does today. You'd make your film, and then you had to sell it to a distributor, and then they would market it however they wanted to. And filmmakers never had to be business people at that point. They had just artists, they'd make their films and they'd sell it. But now, filmmakers can and actually have to be business people. So it's a new generation of film entrepreneurs.
The future for crowdsourcing, I see, is on the rise.
I think it's coming along. I've seen progress in the last 2 years that I think has been very interesting and remarkable, but there's still a way to go.
There is a tendency to believe that the busiest community is the one that is most dynamically placed to engender innovation and powerful storytelling. But I would suggest to the naysayers that you guys are actually ahead of the curve. You already have a culture of engagement with the audience, which is where the future of storytelling is going. So you should build upon that strength, build upon that value differentiator and say, okay, if we're going to start to embed technology into this experience that we already have as part of our community, how will we do so not to remove ourselves from what we already have and try to be like other communities, but rather to leverage and maximize that which we already are and differentiate ourselves and maybe contribute to those communities in a unique fashion that influences the arc of storytelling for the future in a manner that builds upon the strengths of the intimate past.
We just have a very special community. We have a community that is very supportive of the arts. And while filmmaking is, of course, a business, and people do it for a living, there's no doubt that it has a big artistic component to it. And this community supports that more than, I think, almost any other community of its size and remoteness that you're going to find in the United States.
I would love to see the growth of production in the Rogue Valley just to continue. I think it's really exciting. It has great, economic impact on the community. It just fits in with the whole creative feeling that we have here with the theater and film.
Will the state of Jefferson ever become a major film center? I don't think in this extent that Hollywood is a major film center, but I think it will become a major film center in terms of independent film as well as newer types of productions.
It's extremely important to have people that are from here, that are trained here, that develop their own unique voices that's sensitive to this area.
Work, take all the jobs that you can. Learn when you're on set. Watch the people who are very good at what they do so that you can learn some lessons.
So whenever I give advice to people starting out, no matter what job they're in, if they want to be a cinematographer or an actor or a director or a producer, and they ask, well, how do I get into the business? How do I get this job that I want? My biggest piece of advice is nobody's stopping you from doing that right now. You can go out and you can be a cinematographer today. You can be a director, you can be an actor. It doesn't mean that it has to be great yet, but you can go out and you can produce something today.
After exploring the rich cinematic history in the state of Jefferson, how it's thriving, and where it may be going, we can only wonder where the next 100 years will take us. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Jeffersonian.